To take this picture of Mandy Moore, who did the voice of Rapunzel, and we're going to edit her to look like the character that she did the voice for. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip her direction in which she's looking. So to do that, I'm going to go under Edit, Transform, and I'm going to flip horizontal. Okay, now she's looking the same way as our Rapunzel reference. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to push her eyebrows up higher on her head. So to do that, I'm going to take my clone stamp tool over here, and I'm going to make sure my hardness is set to 0, and got my size so it's just a little bit larger than her eyebrows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my Alt key or Option key depending on what you're using, the Alt key. So we'll turn that circle to a little bullseye. I'll go to the corner of her eyebrow with the Alt key and click. This is the area I'm going to draw from, and then I'm going to push her eyebrows up closer to the top of her forehead. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Hold my Alt key and click, and then push this eyebrow up here as well. Okay, now that we move the eyebrows up, we need to get rid of the old eyebrows. So I'm going to come down a little bit lower, right in between that space between the eyebrows, and I'm going to hold my Alt key and click, and then I'm going to take from this section here and cover up her original brows. Same thing on the other side. Alt click, and then cover up that eyebrow. Okay, now that I've got our eyebrows moved up, I'm going to use my spot healing brush tool over here. So I'll click on that, and I'm going to take care of some of the things on her face so she looks a little more like the cartoon character. So one of the things we're going to do with this is we're going to get rid of the mole. A few little moles she has, maybe a few of these little freckles, and we can do that really quick and easy with our spot healing brush. So she'll look a little more cartoony, a little less human-like. And I might even get rid of these little lines beside her mouth, make her look a little more elastic. And I might even use this on the eyebrows a little bit here up in this area, just to kind of smooth out those edges a bit. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we're going to push her head down to make it look like she has a shorter neck. So to do that, I'm going to take my quick selection tool, and I'm going to select her hair and her head, but not her neck. And if you find you select too much, just hold your Alt key and deselect what you don't want to be a part of that selection. Okay, so now that I've got this area selected, I'm going to refine my selection a little bit with the Select and Mask option up here at the top. And I'm going to take my Refine Edge brush tool, and I'm going to take it along the bottom here just to refine that edge, make it a little smoother, so when I move the head down it won't be such a hard looking edge. So it's just along the edge of her hair and her head. Okay, looks good. Now while that's selected, I'm going to switch from my quick selection tool to my move tool up here at the top, and then I'm going to push her head down and shrink the size of her neck. Okay, well, once you've got that, just go ahead and you can hit Control D to deselect, and now her head's in a new spot. So it makes her neck look a lot shorter than what it originally was. Now that we've got that squared away, now we're going to start to manipulate the parts of her face to look a little more like the character. So to do that, we're going to go up to Filter. We're going to use our Liquify tool. And under Liquify, you have some different options. So under your Face Aware Liquify, you've got options for the eyes, the nose, the mouth, head shape, all those things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the size of both of her eyes. I'm going to increase the height all the way. Might increase the width a little bit. And I might push the distance of their eyes over a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. I'm going to push her nose up a little higher on her face. Maybe make it a little bit wider so it's a little more of a ball shape. And then it will give her more of a smile. It's just really happy dappy. Maybe we'll adjust the mouth height a little bit. Okay, we're going to go down to the face shape. We're going to move the forehead down. We're going to push the chin up. We're going to push the jawline in. And we're going to push the face width out. Now I'll go ahead and click OK. And we're getting a little closer to where we need to be, so I'm going to go into this liquefy option again. But I will increase the eye size for both of the eyes. Eye height for both of the eyes. And I'll go down to the forehead. I'm going to push the forehead down. I'm going to push the chin up a little bit more. Push the jawline in a little bit more. And push out the face width a little bit. Now that looks a little closer. I still need to make these eyes a little bit bigger, so what I'm going to use is my bloat tool. And I'm going to have my size set so that's just a little bit bigger than the eyes. So the size that I have right now is pretty good. So I'm going to go in the middle of the eye with this bloat tool, and I'm just going to blow up the size of these eyes, make them a little more cartoony. And I might blow up the ball of the nose here a little bit. I'm going to blow up their cheeks, make them look a little bit fuller and rounder. So let's use that tool to do that. And now I'm going to use my forward warp tool over here at the top, forward warp tool. And I'm going to shrink this size down a little bit. I'm going to use that to push this eye here over on the right side up just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little. And then I'm going to use this to increase the volume of her hair. So I'm going to make her hair look a little bit bigger and fluffier. Alright, so right now she's already looking a lot more like that character. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take my quick selection tool, and I'm going to select her head. I'm going to really select just her. I don't want the background, so I'll hold my Alt key and deselect this background area around her because I don't want to see it. Now I'm going to use my selected mask, and I'm going to refine that edge again just like I did before with the Refine Edge brush tool. Might increase the size just a little bit. And I'm going to take that along the outer edge of her hair. And then I'm going to add a mask. So down at the bottom, just push this little button, add a mask, and then it's going to hide all that background stuff. So we just have her now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new layer. And on this new layer, I'm going to put some pink in her cheeks. So I'm going to take my brush tool. I'm going to increase the size a little bit so it's about the size of her cheeks. Set my hardness to 0. That's pretty good. And I'm going to take some pink, and I'll put a little pink on that cheek, a little pink on that cheek, a little pink, on the tip of her nose. I might shrink that down a little bit for that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my filter, and I'm going to use a blur. I'm going to use my Gaussian blur. So I'll go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to blur that out so it's not so intense. It just leaves a little pink glow around there. Alright, looks good. Click OK. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this layer, and I want to make her eyes a lot greener, a lot more vibrant. So I'm going to switch my brush tool to my color replacement tool, and I'm going to pick a nice bright green color. And with my color replacement tool, I'm going to replace the color from this dark green to a lighter green color. So I'll just go over the eyes with that. So you can still see the texture in the eyes, but it gives it a brighter color. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the size of her pupils. So I'm going to set my hardness to 100%. I'm going to shrink down the size of my brush a little bit. Alright, so that'll be a good size. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. And in this new layer, I'm going to make 2 pupils in the eye with black. So go right in the center, make a little dot, right in the center, make a little dot. And I still want to see some of those highlights in her eye, so I'm going to take my eraser, and it's already pretty small, my hardness set to 0, and I'm going to erase a little bit of that pupil just so I can see some of the highlights in her eyes underneath here. There you go. That'll give a little more life to that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these eyelashes here. So right now they're all blocked out in white, so I'm going to switch from my quick selection tool to my magic wand tool. I'll click on that and it'll select all the white and just hit delete or backspace, and then I'll be good to go with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and adjust the direction which those eyelashes are pointing. So I hit Control T. I'm going to rotate this around. I'll pull this over the other way. Stick this on top of this eye. So if you hold shift while you do this, you can kind of warp the shape a little bit. So I'm going to adjust that so that it goes over the top of her eye a little better. In that, so I'm going to switch this from normal here to multiply so I can still see the darkness, but then I can not have all that white showing through. So go ahead and hit enter. Now I'm going to use my transform and warp. So I'll go edit, transform and warp, and I'm just going to tweak that eyebrow shape or eyelash shape just a little bit to better fit the shape I need it to. Okay, it looks pretty good. So I enter. And I might shave off a little bit of the length of those eyelashes. So I'm going to go ahead and take my eraser, and I'm going to come along the top, and I'm just going to shave off some of that length. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer. So if you hit Control J, it'll duplicate the layer. Now I'm going to take that duplication and I'm going to put it on top of this eye, and I need to change the direction in which it's facing, so I'll go edit, transform, flip horizontal, and now hit Control T, So I can swivel that around a little bit. And if I hold the shift button, I can warp it a little bit. Hit enter. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crop this picture. So I just have her head here in the background. Hit enter. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my very top layer. And then if you hit Shift, Control, Command E, Shift, Control, Command E, it'll duplicate or it'll merge all those layers together. So Shift, Control, Alt, and E. Hold those 4 buttons down. It'll merge the layers into one. So now I'm going to run a filter over this just to tie it together a little bit better. I'll use my sponge. So I'm going to set my brush size to 10, my smoothness to 10, the definition to 0. Looks pretty good. Click OK. And there you have it.